We are chatting today with Amber. Amber is a former family source surrogate, and I'm super excited to chat with you today, Amber, and get to hear about your last surrogacy journey. So let's go ahead and begin. Can you go ahead and tell me kind of what led you into surrogacy in the first place, and just kind of give me a recap of your last journey?
Sure. What led me into surrogacy, I had a midwife with my two children, and my midwife, I had watched her actually complete two surrogacy journeys, and it always resonated with me. And I was just like, man, I always had great pregnancies, always carried well, always, had a good birth experience. So after watching her two journeys, I started asking her questions about, how I could become a surrogate. And that's really what led me to my first journey. So
that's awesome. You mentioned that you'd had a midwife before. Is that something that you wanted going into the first journey, is to continue to have a midwife with your surrogacy pregnancies as well?
I did want to have a midwife with the journey, with my surrogacy journey. Did not end up like I wanted to, in the sense of having midwife, just due to contracts. I had to actually deliver in a hospital and have an OBGYN, but I did have a very great OBGYN. She was very great. So it ended up still being a good experience.
Good. Well, go ahead and kind of tell us all about your journey.
Awesome. So my parents, they were international. So I didn't know them. They were very kind people the entire process. IVF journey was definitely different, going through all of the shots and everything. But basically, it was, for me, I was blessed. I had a smooth transition. Nothing was really out of the norm in the sense of, becoming pregnant and the symptoms of pregnancy. I still carried well through the journey. I was pregnant during the pandemic. So a blessing in that was that I got to rest a lot during the first part. So I'm a school teacher, so I did have to teach from home, but I was off of my feet for most of the day. So I got to rest a lot, and that was really good. The biggest challenge, I think, was more so getting towards the end of the pregnancy, because we had to start school back and I was on my feet a little bit more. And then when it came for delivery day, the parents were not able to be there. So that was a little challenging at first, because in my mind, I seen myself handing baby over to mama, or, mom and dad getting to cuddle their baby in the delivery room. So we didn't get to have that experience. But I did get to FaceTime them that day, and, still get to see their faces of shock and joy, and, just love their little bundle of joy that they had. So overall, the journey, it was smooth. My parents were great. They were supportive through the entire time. They prayed for me. They would always say message of prayers and stuff sent my way. So I really did have a great experience.
Well, good. Having international parents, how did Family Source help you communicate with them?
We had a translator, and like the initial interview that we did, we had a translator during the initial interview. And she was very helpful, and she actually carried through the entire journey with us. We used a messenger app called WeChat. And WeChat allows you to translate, their messages, because they did not speak English. And then also our translator was on there as well. So if there was anything that was confused, she was able to clear it up for both me and them. So that was, very helpful for Family Source to be able to provide that, because if not, it would have been very difficult, to be able to talk between us.
How did your family feel about the whole experience whenever you decided, hey, I'm going to do this?
Initially, they were kind of like, it's not that they weren't supportive, it was just new to them. It was something that wasn't of the normal to them. So they were kind of a little standoffish at first. My mother, she was very concerned because I'm her daughter, and she wants to protect her baby, and she wasn't aware of the process of anything. But that's how she was with my personal birth. Whenever I transitioned from having them at a hospital to transition into a midwife, she was very standoffish. But after the process, she was like, okay, I see why you did this, and she was very supportive after that. So during the process, especially introducing it to my kids, they were, kids are just like, okay. And they kind of just go with the flow. My son, he would always, rub my belly and, ask if I needed help or anything. And then my mom, she would just ask questions, and, she had her concerns, and then I would, help, reassure her that everything's going to be okay. She was actually the one in the delivery room with me. And so she was kind of my backbone in there, and very helpful. And it was a good experience. Even now, I show her pictures of him. She's like, oh my God, she's just the cutest. So now after everything is done, they're very supportive of it still. And, they see why I did it. The day of probably about 3 hours or 4 hours after I delivered, his guardian and his nanny showed up. So it was who the parents had chosen to be able to take care of him until he got over there to them. And so they showed up right away, and they were able to have a birth suite down the hallway from me. And they were very welcoming, very, very sweet people. They were so shocked at how, just alert he was. And, that was reassuring to the parents, because the parents were, very concerned about the health of their baby, but they were like so shocked. They're like, we've never seen a baby this alert, because he was just wide-eyed and just moving. And but they kept him the entire time. And so it was like kind of like a fast transition. Like you really didn't get to think about it, because I birthed on Wednesday and they went to California on that Friday. So it was just like bam and bam. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So the nanny, she kept him the entire time, and it was 5 months that they had to wait in order to actually get him over there. And so it's been 2 weeks now. He's actually in mama and daddy's arms, over there gooing and gone. They sent me a picture of him listening to music and just making noises. So it took 5 months.
Yes.
When he finally got over there, I was like, okay, my journey is complete finally, But I will say, Family Source I feel like they aided very well in the process to help him get over there faster. I mean, of course, the pandemic slowed a lot of things down, but on our end with Family Source, like everything was completed when they needed. My doctor was able to call and get things verified, and I was able to reach out to, my counselor with Family Source, and she was like just on top of everything. So I never had to wait a long time for anything concerning questions. And like even that day at the hospital, the nanny and the guardian, they were able to get all the paperwork that they needed for him to make the process a little bit faster.
Sure. Whenever you began this whole journey, how did you end up finding Family Source, or kind of what made it stand out from any other agencies out there?
Really, it was just the relationship that I had with my midwife. She had did 2 journeys through Family Source. She just talked very highly about the company. I really didn't do much research outside because I trusted her. And then, just going through the process of how, friendly and informative. And that was a big one, just being able to answer the questions that I needed to, make sure that it was the right thing for me, was very nice. Family Source is very thorough, and, every step along the way. And that really just, in the very beginning, just providing that support and somebody following up with me and answering the questions that I needed, that really just kind of hooked me in, and it's like, okay, so I could trust this, and, this would be a great company to, be able to do this through.
Good. So looking back on your whole journey, now that you said it's finally done, the parents have their child, is there anything out of the whole process that you may have wanted to do differently, or Any processes that you would have wished that they were a little bit different?
Man, I guess really since I have nothing to compare it to, even on the days, I had some of the medicine that I was taking, I didn't know I was actually having a reaction to, but even when I was going through that process, it was able to be cleared up immediately. So they were able to get my medicine to me ASAP. And we were going on a short little family trip during spring break right before COVID had hit. And I needed to get my next round, shipped to the vacation place that we were going to, and it was there, so even with the little hiccups, or what I thought would be challenges, they weren't. It was all just, I don't know, it just worked. So I really can't say that with any experience I would have did it differently. I really, and I'm not just being like, oh yeah, everything was great and fine, because, there were some days, but, it wasn't anything drastic or that was super hard or you just couldn't get through. So, I wouldn't have changed that experience.
What advice would you have to someone that was just starting out as a surrogate and going through the process?
To ask questions and ask as many as you need to feel comfortable with the process, to know that it is a process. So it's a, they had told me, because there was some days there's longer waiting periods than others. And they said, it's a marathon. Take it as a marathon, not a sprint. Some days, there are going to be sprints where things are happening a little bit faster, but then there's certain times where it's going to take a long time, and just kind of ride the process. I think the longest process for me was the contract wise, but I've seen why it took so long, because you want to make sure that you're taken care of, they're taken care of, you both mutually agree of what's going on in the contract. So that process is needed, because whenever you get into the journey, it's hard to change things within the contract that weren't already agreed upon. So I would just say, ask lots of questions, take your time where you think you need to take your time, and then ask more questions. But know that it's a marathon. And then whenever you actually get to the point of in the journey, carrying that little bundle, just enjoy the experience, and, take care of yourself through it all, and ask for help when you need help. And then, I don't know, after that, just embrace it all. That's what I would say to do. Just embrace every part of the journey.
Last question for you. We all know that this journey is not about the money, but there is a compensation when you become a gestational surrogate. Would you like to share what the compensation has, how it's benefited you and your family?
Right. It really allowed me just to kind of have just more cushion. I always had, not that we struggled with groceries before, but, I could buy, more of the organic foods and make sure that we had lots of just, fruits and vegetables, which actually did very well during the pregnancy. During my pregnancies, it was a little bit more spare sometimes on the end. So, just having that extra cushion helped with that. Just savings, the kids, my kids just having, extra cushion for whatever we needed, just within school and in sports and all that, it's just nice to have that. And then being able to help others too with it, and, saving and making plans for the future. That would be, the biggest thing. And that was the nicest thing for me. It's just being able to have that extra savings and cushions for things that we have planned on for the future, or taking that trip that we didn't get to take last year, and spending time with family and providing. It's more of having that quality versus quantity.